Welcome to the Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we have got a lot to dig into. We're going to be covering the patch notes that just recently came out. This is patch 2.6.2, and it's bringing with it all of the spooky seasonal stuff for October. We're also going to be diving into a lot of the fixes that are apparently coming in this update, and I got some good questions from the community that I want to dive into, because with these updates it's interesting to think about some of the things that Rare hasn't really focused on, or even if this is possible. So we're going to be diving into that as well as a bunch more, so sit back, relax, let's get into it. But before I get into any of this, I have to thank the patrons. They are the ones that went over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast, just like you can, to support this content. If you like this podcast, it helps out a ton to support. If you can't, don't worry about it. But I do want to thank the people that are supporting at the captain's tier. So thank you to People's Republic, El Cute, Balls, Bam Bam Bagel, Captain Haskell, Captain Hayes, Chateau Neuf, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, who's new, thank you for joining up, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fergatron, Trickster, Jabaro5, Carl Embo, Kazia the Rogue, Lumpy SRQ, Dub Goose, Evil Morpheus, Xbox Mike 29, Murphy Lives, Mutinous Max, Raja the Brave, Registella, Replicated Flame, Rustbelt Kid, Norwegian, Skemelt 666, Sudesh, Captain Tasm, That Kilted Guy, TN Professor, Real Big Tuna, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Super Pack, Music Me, The Lore Chronologist, Deadeye Dre, Heger Owl, Ghost Boy 20, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Ruski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Windsor Chris, and Zam. Wow. Thank you all so much for your support. It really does mean the world to me that you care that much to give me your hard-earned money for this content. You don't have to. It's a free podcast, but I appreciate that you do. So thanks. Let's get into it. First up, I want to let you all know about something that's going on currently. If you're listening to the podcast the day of or the day after, you're still going to have time to be able to get onto Twitch if you want to pick up the Eastern Winds Sapphire set. Now, there's 4 items that are available. You can watch them in 4-hour chunks. You can reclaim them all in one day. I did this all on one day. There's actually an extension for Twitch if you use Chrome. There's an extension called automatic Twitch drops that you can actually put on your Chrome browser. So that way, when you're watching different streamers, if they have either channel points or drops or moments, you can actually claim those automatically. You don't have to worry about it. So I've been doing that, and I logged on, I believe it was Friday when they went live, because it started up on September 30th and it's going till October 4th, 9 a.m. UTC, which is right at the end of October 3rd. So hopefully you guys have some time to be able to get this if you haven't already. You just need to watch the 4 hours as far as I understand it, and you can claim them after each hour. So you have an opportunity to get all 4 if you haven't already. So just make sure that you are checking this out. Make sure that you are getting these if you need to. I would definitely recommend it if you have your PC set up and you have a few hours to spare. Toss on this automatic Twitch drop extension, and you can go AFK, let them get the viewer count, let you get the drops, and you're all set to go. Overall, though, I would say the set is interesting. I'm not sure if I really like the color scheme, but it is different. It's new. It's not just the typical stuff that we'd normally get, and I appreciate that. I think it's great that we're going to be able to kind of see some of the new set that's coming, that's tied to something that has had some controversy, and we haven't really seen anyone mess around with it. But I do like that we're continuing with the Eastern Winds set, and we're going from Jade to Sapphire now. One of the other things that happened this September 30th was actually the Galley of Grub. Wow, the Galley of Grub in support of No Kid Hungry. It was a 24-hour stream in support of the charity for No Kid Hungry, which helps make sure that kids have accessible food so that they don't have to worry about starvation. And there were giveaway and Twitch drops available. It happened to line up with the Eastern Sapphire set, not Sapphire. Yeah, Sapphire set. I don't know why I'm second guessing myself. It happened to line up at the same time. A lot of the content creators that were streaming were also given Twitch codes that they were going to be able to give away. And I didn't see this. I have to go off of what my community was talking about, but this actually had a sword that was part of the Insider set, the Insider Sapphire set, I believe, that was added as a code so that streamers would be able to give that out. So another situation where it's kind of like the Obsidian Capstan, something that I'm not really a huge fan of. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. This is the Gilded Phoenix set. And it was one of the swords, according to what Beatinator was saying in the chat there. So I'm not really a huge fan of this. I really wish that there was another way that people could be able to clear out these sets, complete these sets without having to worry about trying to find a code, because it's a set that they've put out in different ways. Like the equipment set for the Obsidian set only came through the Chips Ahoy event that came out only in North America in the first year. So unless you're getting the Obsidian 6-pack set, it's really hard to be able to try and get those cosmetics, and a lot of it is tied to different things that people have to do with streamers. So there should be, I honestly feel like there ought to be a way that people can kind of get this content without having to worry about the RNG of winning a giveaway. Also having to do it through different streamers. Like you really have to hunt down and try and get some of these codes. So I just kind of wish that there was a little bit easier way for people to get these than the current carrot on a stick, if you get my drift, or if you catch my drift. The Style of Fashion or Style of Thieves event or online community engagement contest came and went. There were a lot of submissions and 4 different categories that you could submit your style for, your appearance or attire. The rules were pretty simple. You just had to be on a plain background, clearly indicating like what your pirate is, and as far as I know, you were allowed to crop it. I don't know that you were allowed to, you weren't allowed to do any kind of filters or anything, edit in any way, but I believe you're allowed to crop it. And I submitted each day, each of the different things. I think it was captains, gold, cosplay, and spooky. And I wasn't able to get any of my current photos picked for the voting. But I did see a few community members that I know who managed to make it into the final round. So hopefully they win. Hopefully they're able to get their gloves. And we will have to wait and see what the next event is to see what the next round of themes will be for the Style of Thieves. And I'll try to let you all know about that. Currently, I think skeletons is the current SOT shot. I've already seen some fantastic photos, so I'm not even going to bother at this point because there's no way I can compete with the ones that they've already been doing in there. And then I'm trying to think if there was any other. I think that was it as far as the community contests. As always, there's I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's a capture a code Obsidian 6-pack and in the forums, and it is kind of like another. It is kind of like a SOT shot, but it's a more personal one that always goes on in the forums. I always get the notification from Liza LaRue, who, if you don't know, is one of the best community members we have out there, and one of the moderators for the actual forums out there. And she constantly is doing these photos. She comes up with her own themes, and you just have to submit a screenshot, very much like the SOT shot. And it's always got the Obsidian 6-pack in there. And lately I've been seeing that there's been Obsidian capstans put in there as well too. So this is just through the forums. It's not on any other social media. It's just through there, through Liz LaRue. And I went ahead and put a link to it in the Discord server so that folks could kind of keep an eye on this, because I don't think a lot of people really think about this. But the entries are kind of for a few days. Like I think the entries for this were till tomorrow, and it was about 5 days ago. So you roughly get about a week or so for each one. And she does one about once a week for as long as I can remember. But if you're looking to get some of those codes, like I was mentioning, another route that I think a little more unofficial technically, but probably easier, to be honest. Because I think a lot of people don't really think about going to the forums for these kind of contests. But I figured I'd let you all know about that. Give some love over to Liz LaRue, because she's fantastic, an amazing prop maker as well too, and does a ton of work to help kind of make sure that SOT has a really good community of friends and stuff. I got to meet her finally in person at SOT Fest, and it was fantastic. She's probably one of the best people in the community, hands down. Moving on. I don't usually talk about this too often, but while we're talking about community, I wanted to showcase one of the community members that has recently come to Sea of Thieves, and is probably one of my favorite artists out there. Definitely one of the better portraits that I've seen. A lot of people really know her, but her name is Zuki. And if you've been on Twitter and you've seen like the really beautiful artwork for the Flameheart Junior or Briggsy, or the seaside picture of Umbra, she has been doing artwork for Sea of Thieves for a couple years now, and it's been really great to see her get a spotlight. There's a really nice little write-up, thanks to Joe Clifford, was senior community manager, that was done on the 25th. I'll go ahead and put a link in the show notes if you want to go check it out. Learn a little bit about her gaming history, what got her into Sea of Thieves, things like that. And it does just kind of have like a lot of her artwork kind of showcased, and a lot of it really is tied around to some of the different main characters that we've had. You know, you've got Flameheart Jr., you've got Briggsy, you've got Belle, you've got some of the other community members, but also like Suds, as well as Duke, the Dark Lord, the Ferryman, all kinds of really nice photos out there. So feel free to head over there, give some support to her over on Twitter if you happen to see her. Congratulate her on hitting it on the community spotlight. Again, I don't usually grab these, but this was one of those times where I felt like she really deserves it. She spends a lot of time on that artwork, and knowing that this month is October, it's usually Inktober, which is kind of a online thing that happened. I don't even know when Inktober started up, but effectively it's 31 days of drawing, right? It's the commitment to draw 31 pieces of artwork based off of different themes. And if you don't know, the art club, is art club in the ARRT, like the R art club, is doing one as well too. And I'm trying to help participate in that. The first day was gosh, what was the Thursday? Lanterns. Okay, it was the first day was lanterns, so I drew the Pirate Legend lantern because it's my favorite. Today was as of recording, today was the trap one, so I drew a couple snakes in front of a collector's chest or a captain's chest because obvious trap. And I'm waiting to find out what tomorrow is, but if you want, you can head over to the Art Club Twitter account, which is ARRTCLUB, or you can head over to the Discord as well to keep up with Inktober. If you happen to be an artist and you like getting a kick out of seeing like what other people have been doing, it's been really great. I think one of the best trap photos I saw was a picture of a sloop with someone on the back canopy, and they're just shouting out the word ally, and they have the little alliance flag up and little arrows pointing to it, which is the clear indication of the susness of it, and it is called the SS sus, or the sus, which is great. I love it. But yeah, that's going on. That's another community event thing that you could be checking out if you haven't already. And yeah, just some really fun stuff that people have been doing out in the wild there. If you haven't been watching streamers and you haven't been keeping up with a whole lot that's going on, a lot of great folks doing some fantastic stuff in the community. So, but with that, I think it's time we need to dive into, I think the question that I wanted to get into before I do the patch notes, because I got a question from one of the community members, and it really did kind of speak to me. I was thinking about what they said because they've been talking to me lately, and I wanted to address this because you guys help a lot with talking in as far as like what the community is doing, how the community feels about the game, and while they aren't in the Gold Hoarder group, for the Saturday stream or the Saturday recordings at the end of the month each month, I still welcome a lot of people's feedback, a lot of people's questions through different means. And believe it or not, I actually got an email. So the email comes from A. Gardner. I don't know if they want me to say their full name or not, but they go by the Gamertag Most Expendable, which is fantastic. And I figured I'd write this up. So it's a topic that I wanted to address because it deals with Xbox players versus PC players, and not in the way that I think you really are imagining right off the bat. So going to the email, he says, I'm an Xbox player and I haven't seen any content creators address this at all. And that's the inability for Xbox players in parties to hear game chat the same way that PC players on PC Discord chat can. I had hoped that the recent update of Discord functionality to Xbox would change that, but it hasn't. It's exactly the same. You can switch quicker between the two, but Xbox Discord parties are still completely deaf to SOT game chat. It feels like this creates a massive disparity between player bases. Xbox servers are deathly quiet, and Xbox players on PC servers are oblivious to PC players attempting to communicate. Obviously, we can be in game chat all of the time as a solution, but this creates massive issues in battles. With enemies hearing all of your callouts and when trying to be clandestine. Also, I'd rather not have random tuckers overhear private and personal conversations that I have with friends. Is this an issue that Rare can address, or is it an Xbox issue exclusively, or both? I really thought Discord would be our savior, but it hasn't been. So thank you to the Most Expendable who's out there, and fantastic fan. I really appreciate your feedback all the time that I get it. And I talked to a few people about this. I put out a call recently and I was talking to a friend of mine, Carities, Nina, who, if you don't know, is a Sea of Thieves streamer. She's been in the game since beta, if not alpha. Her gamer tag is actually in the game. If you head over to Lost Gold Fort, she is on the list of the most gold earned during the I believe it was beta, where she earned over 1 million gold and got her name on there. But she's been playing the game forever, and she started out on Xbox and eventually moved to PC. And the reason for it had a lot to do with this issue. And if you're not familiar, I think Most Expendable really did kind of break it down really well. If you're on an Xbox, you can be in a party chat, but you can't be in game voice chat. It's one or the other. Discord doesn't set that up as well. The only thing Discord does is it enables PC players to be lazy about joining Xbox parties because the sound audio is better quality in Discord. And I'm speaking specific to one person in this case. I'm not trying to call out all the PC players. I understand that came across as a very generalized statement. Rest assured, I am not trying to call anyone out except for one person. And if they're listening to this, they know exactly who they are and why I'm calling them out, because I'm jabbing at them about this. But it is a shame. It's one of the things that really does separate one of the main issues that comes with having a cross-platform game is, how do you deal with players across multiple types of platforms where audio is not restricted to either a party or in-game chat? It's odd to me that you can have in-game sound from Sea of Thieves piping into your headphones and have Xbox party chat overlaid on top of that, but you can't hear in-game voice chat at the same time. And it seems odd that's not the case. And it's something that I hope Rare has taken a look at, tried to work around. It's obvious to me that Rare understands that this is a problem, which makes me think that this is maybe an issue with Xbox, because Sea of Thieves has alternatives to speaking in game. They've worked very hard and have actually changed the way that the pirate chat is set up. If you remember a while back, they actually changed the way that the button controllers were, and then added options to make sure that you could go back to the legacy layout of the controller buttons. But they've since changed it so that the right bumper is actually pirate chat. and it gives you access to be able to quickly access the chat codes or the ahoy or everything's fine or we're friendly, things like that, to be able to talk to other people. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't really use that. Not many people really use that as an easy way to communicate with each other unless you're on Xbox only servers. I myself tend to play on my Xbox when I don't want to stream it, which means that I'm typically playing on Xbox only servers, because as someone playing on Xbox, and someone playing on Xbox and on PC, I 100% support the fact that playing on PC affords you a lot more perks. It's a lot easier to deal with combat when you're on PC. You can really kind of move your mouse around. You have a lot more movement, a range of movement. You can do a lot more just in general on PC. It's not quite as on par as, say, like a just a straight FPS shooter like a Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty does a really good job of kind of I'm trying to think of evening the playing field, I guess would be a good way to kind of say it. Console players and PC players on Call of Duty, it's a lot closer as far as parity goes, as far as skill gap that's required. And Sea of Thieves is just not there, unfortunately, which means that if I'm going to be playing on Xbox, I try to play where I'm going to be on the most even playing field as I possibly can. I have no shame in saying that I play on Xbox only servers, because that's why they're there. I don't want to get trounced by someone on PC, because it's not a fair fight. Even if I'm bad at PvP, even if I'm great at PvP, there's only so much that I can do with a controller compared to a mouse and keyboard. I have a lot quicker access to different types of items or equipment, things like that I can keybind a lot easily than if I'm playing on a controller. And I say that with the full understanding that people are going to say, oh, well, I don't have problems with this. That's fine. I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to me. So knowing that going into this, I think about what happens when I do actually play on Xbox servers. And it's genuinely 100% right. When I am playing on Xbox servers, I don't really talk to other people. In fact, a lot of the time I don't even use headphones, because I'm trying to relax. I'm trying to enjoy the atmosphere of it. I have my TV, I've got my couch, I'm sitting in with my controller. I don't necessarily want to jump in with anyone, because I'm not planning on playing a whole long session. I'm just trying to do like a shorter session and just kind of enjoy my atmosphere as I'm playing on a nice big TV and screen. So I sympathize with the most expendable here, because it's not something that I think a lot of people really think about when it comes to content creation. Most streamers I've seen are on PC, and that really does kind of speak to the complete, I'm trying to think of what the word I want to use here, the disparity between PC and Xbox. If you saw most players on Xbox on stream, I think that would be different. Halo is a good example of this. I think a lot of Xbox players are on Halo because Halo has only been on Xbox for so long that you have decades of people, or you have people who've learned how to play for decades on controller for Halo. Halo's combat is tied very intrinsically to the layout of the buttons on the controller. They've been very, very meticulous about that, right? And Sea of Thieves, while originated on Xbox, has been built cross-play with PC, and the options afforded to PC players really do speak to where people will tend to go if they play long enough. So when I see streamers, I typically see streamers with 60 plus FPS with decent resolution. They've got mouse and keyboard to their advantage. They've got in-game voice and Discord going at the same time. And it really does allow you to have private conversations, but also be able to speak to other people if you need to. And it also speaks to the ease of access to being able to type something out too, because for PC players, they just have to hit T and it opens up a little type window. You type in what you want and you hit enter, and you can go out and actually You can go and actually communicate to people better than what just the pirate text is doing. So I see where Rare has tried to make an effort to ease the difference between communicating with people on Xbox servers. It's clear that the intent is to have people in-game voice chat. But what I think Most Expendable here brings up here is a very solid case for why we need to look at having a different option, or at least having voice chat, in-game voice chat, be able to come through the audio on Xbox servers only. Especially, I would say on Xbox only servers, that would be fine. Have a toggle that allowed you to turn on in-game voice, come through whatever normal voice chat system that is coming in. Have that all just tied together with the actual game sound. I don't know how that works as far as proximity chat. I don't know if those systems are completely separate. And the reason we have in-game proximity chat is purely because it's separated out from the rest of the game audio. But I really do want to be able to have the ability to at least hear other people if they're talking to me in game. So that way, if they're talking to me in game and it's not just someone holding up a speaking trumpet to their face and me thinking, oh, I need to switch out a party chat and be able to go into in-game voice chat to see if they're actually talking to me or not, or if this is just a weird bait. But it's true in the sense that there are conversations that I have with people, and some of those conversations I really would rather not have people be able to hear. And having the option for people to be able to hear in-game voice conversations, just so that I can be able to hear if someone's talking to me, really doesn't give me the opportunity to feel comfortable jumping into in-game voice. And Rare's also tried to address that too. They've tried to say like, hey, if you don't want to, if you want to use in-game voice, but you want to have a private conversation, you can turn the speaking trumpet around and you can whisper to your crewmates. And I really don't think that fixed the issue. I think that really kind of it put a little checkbox next to the lack of a feature that enables that, but it is not the elegant solution that I think people actually wanted to have. So I think it's time, or I think it's time to kind of take a look and see if this is the case. If people agree with this, then we should probably kind of find a good way to kind of let Rare know that this is still a pain point for Xbox players. And I do kind of wonder if maybe having in-game voice piped in through the game audio, the way everything else is, if a shark spawns, you hear it. If you hear a keg go off, you hear it. It's not like it's a proximity based thing in there as well too. You hear kegs or you hear cannon fire from far away. It's all proximity based. I think in-game voice ought to come through on Xbox servers if they're using it. So that way, even if you're in an Xbox party and you're talking to someone, if you hear someone calling out to you, you can still hear it, even if you're still in an Xbox party. I think that might be the only way that you could actually have it so that Rare controls that. But I think that is a genuine concern that Xbox players have. And it's a weird thing for us because it's not really an issue in most games. Like most games, you really don't want to end up talking to other people because most other games are so competitive. But voice in Sea of Thieves is potentially one of the greatest weapons in your arsenal. Being able to talk to someone and either convince them not to kill you or convince them to join your alliance, being able to convince them or persuade them to do something that you might not have been able to communicate through the small options that you have through the pirate chat radio is really important. But not being able to hear your crewmate who is on an island and needs your help because they're getting attacked by the other crewmate because your in-game voice is being tied up with the other person that you're talking to, that is detrimental. Like there's no way to find a good balance between that, the way PC players have it segregated off. Like Discord is their private chat, but they can still hear anyone talking in game. And it's very unique of a situation that we're in here. But I would like to actually see like what happens with this, what can be done to kind of address it, or if Rare could actually address that in one of their next podcasts. It would be great to kind of hear some of the feedback from the team about what tools they have looked into to see about kind of making this a little bit of an easier pain point for Xbox players. And just kind of find out like a little bit more about what are the roadblocks in place that are preventing this from being something that is on par with what PC players can get as a default. But let me know what you guys think. If you think that this is something that you don't really run into, but I would really love to hear from the Xbox players on this, because I also deal with this. I understand it, and I 100% support the idea that there needs to be a better workaround than currently what's going on. For like the speaking trumpet, the pirate text, all of those are tools that we can use, but they're not as good as the tools that current PC players are using. So if you're on Xbox and you feel this pain point, let me know. Let me get the feedback about this, so I can kind of let some of the devs know that I talk to on a infrequent basis, and kind of see if there's something that they've talked about or things that they've done. Maybe they can go back to the drawing board and try and come up with another solution for what this issue is kind of bringing to the table here. But thank you to the Most Expendable for writing in, for doing this. It was a great idea for a topic for the show. But we got some patch notes we need to get into. So let's get into that. Ahoy there, pirates. This is the ad for this episode, and I did want to let you know, if you wanted to avoid these and just get a regular filler, you can head over to the Patreon. There's a special feed just for patrons that get the ad-free version. If you want to keep listening, though, I can't say I blame you, because this week I want to let you know about Loot Crate and getting 15% off of most crates and crate subscriptions when you use the link and code RobotsRadio in the show notes. Also, you can head over to audiobooks.com, get your first 3 audiobooks for free, and that can include any 2 VIP books, or use the affiliate link for Green Man Gaming. If you're a PC gamer or you'd like to save money on games, it's one of the benefits of being a PC gamer. Head over to Green Man Gaming. You can get codes for Steam, Epic, any of the different stores that they have deals going on. They have deals going on all the time, and if you plan on buying there, please consider using our affiliate link. All of that goes straight to me through the network. Thank you all so much for everything that you do to support this podcast. It means the world to me, and I continue to try and improve the quality and the content for you. With that, pirates, let's get back to the show. All right, so like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we are going to be diving into the release notes for 2.6.2. This is the first update after the Hunter's Cry, and after the Hunter's Cry? No, why did I feel like it's after the Hunter's Cry? Gosh, it's the Siren's Prize. It's what I meant. But we got the spooky stuff. And I'm really excited about this, because if you guys don't know, I love this season. This is my favorite season. So we got all the spooky stuff, and this time I actually really like this stuff. So we got the Bleakhearted set. Now this is kind of the Emporium stuff that you'll find for real money. Hopefully you guys all saved up some of those ancient coins that we got from the last community update or last community day, and have decided what you're going to do with them. I bought the Bleak Banshee costume before I realized that the $15 bundle was up, where you can get the costume, you can get the weapons, and you can get the tankard, as well as the golden and ancient coins that you typically do with those bundles. So just keep an eye out for that if you're looking to get this costume set, or if you want the weapons. But I wanted to talk about these because the little blurbs that are going on with these are actually really, really kind of interesting. The fun thing that I think a lot of people realized is that the Bleakhearted Banshee ship collection is a very interesting one. It is white and gold, with a very elaborate kind of gold filigree that kind of goes around the outside of the sails as well as along the hull. It looks fantastic, and the white itself is more of an off white, more like an eggshell white. That you'd see with a lot of like lace and such. Not to say that anything on this is lace, but just to kind of help give you a mental image of what we're seeing here. And in the middle of the sails, as well as adorned on the actual flag, is a heart with a little key lock, a little lock key shape. I can't think of what that would be. a keyhole shape out of the middle. Kind of think like the Heartless. If you've ever played Kingdom Hearts, that might be a good comparison for a visual representation. But it is just a gold heart with a little keyhole in the middle. And the whole set is based around the idea of a forlorn lover who lost their betrothed or their affianced, I guess would be a better, not betrothed, but their affianced partner to the seas. And I love the costume with this. The costume, it looks like a wedding gown with a skeleton who has the veil still down over their eyes, but it is clear that they are a skeleton. They have the gray hands, the gray skeletal hands, and the gray skeletal jawbone with the teeth just visible underneath the actual veil. And there's a wreath of white roses adorned on her head or its head, and it has a necklace with the heart that has the keyhole on it around her neck, a pendant, if you will. And she has gold shackles, and the shackles have broken chains on the ends of them. Really just a fantastic costume design for kind of that cursed sea, the bride to be that never could out there. And in the Bleakheart set, I wanted to kind of dig into some of the actual pieces here, because I think that the ship set itself has some really interesting lore tied to it that isn't really explained. And man, it got my mind racing. So the Bleakheart Banshee flag has some nice flavor text. It says, the locket on this flag is the same one that binds a ghostly lover to the mortal plane in the old sailor's fable. So like I just mentioned, that costume, that locket is around her neck. It binds her to the mortal plane that we're in, which is I just love that. And I'm curious to learn more about this Bleakheart's manor that's mentioned in all of these. So the helm, the big giant clock that's set to 420, which is a hilarious weed reference. Which, if you don't know, you may not know why it's 420, but 420 is the police code that is that used to be, it may have changed, but it used to be the indicator that cops would call in whenever they had to call about picking up someone that had weed. They would call in a 420. So the weed enthusiasts took that and then decided to appropriate it to 4 p.m. and 20 minutes. 420 would be the time that you would light up. Very funny, just kind of way it goes, but now 420 is locked in there with other famous numbers that I don't need to get into here. But the helm itself, the clock, is apparently something that was salvaged from the burned down manor that used to be in the grand drawing room. So this clock used to be like a big giant grandfather clock that was salvaged from the burnt manor of Bleakheart Manor, which is crazy. Now I want to understand what's going on here. So the cannons were a token of esteem from the great sailor to the parents of their intended bride. So the sailor that was planning on marrying this banshee, the cannons that are on this set were one that was actually intended as a gift to the parents, the aristocrats who were the sailors of this bride, before the tragedy of their story kind of culminated. And the figurehead says that the banshee still, or that the woman actually, and this is really interesting. This was the thing that I actually really thought was kind of cool. The figurehead. There's two types of figureheads. Obviously, with all of the different cosmetic sets that we get, there's always like a basic one, and then not basic, but the essentials one, and then the collector's edition, right? And there's a little more elaborate design to the collector's edition. Things move, things glow, stuff comes off it. There's always something a little bit unique to it, right? Well, the essential one is a woman in gold, in a dress with a veil, and she is the figurehead for the essential one. The collector's one is the banshee version of that. It's the skeleton in the veil on the figurehead, and it's really I love that they decided to have both sides of the story with this set. It's really cool looking. Kind of reminds me of the white version of the Ledger cosmetics that we got for Athena's Fortune, where we had the white and gold motif for the ghostly Athena set. But the figurehead says, still clinging to hope, this solemn bride-to-be waits eternally for a soulmate who will never walk down the aisle. It just breaks my heart, man. In the sails, detail says that mirroring the ornate gold detailing on a forgotten music box, these sails feel almost too lavish to unfurl. Which is so interesting to think, like there was a music box involved with this, probably a gift or one that was kind of very cherished for this bride to be. And the collector's figurehead is really interesting because it has this kind of twisted nature to it that I really do love the difference in the two figureheads. But the Bleakhearted set is available now if you want to get that. There's the smaller bundle that just has like the essentials, where it's the flag, the hull, the sails, and the figurehead. Just that set. That's $14.99 in ancient coin, which is like $15. They've got the standard bundle, which is $25, that has, the cannons, the wheel, the capstan, the cannon flare, plus the stuff that's in the essentials. And then, of course, the collector's pieces, the elaborate sails, the different figurehead. Those are all, of course, $7.99 or $8 each, depending on where you're at. And the tankards, something that was included with the bundle that I mentioned, the Banshee bundle. That is in the Emporium as well, I believe, for $4.99 ancient coins. And that also has a little interesting kind of little blurb to this. And it says that this tankard is supposedly the one that was used in the ritual that transformed a heartbroken bride-to-be into the vengeful specter. So whatever was used, this tankard was used to change her into this banshee. And now the locket that's around her neck is what's keeping her tied to this plane of existence, which is just like they've literally built up this really interesting story behind this cosmetic set. And the theme around it is really, really well crafted. It's not just your, oh, this is another weird thing that they're putting into the Emporium. It's like, no, there's story tied to this. And the story is part of the lore of Sea of Thieves. I really want to know where this Bleakhearted Manor is. I want to know how it burned down. I want to know what killed the sailor. I want to know what this woman was thinking when she realized like what happened to her beloved husband to be, and what caused her to go to whatever person or whatever thing drove her to insanity that would make her want to find this tankard to be able to add it to this ritual to cause her to be trapped forever in this banshee form. Like, what a freaking cool story. Like that's the cinematic story that I want to see. Like if Sea of Thieves was a weekly show, or, like a little mini series on Netflix or HBO or something, like I want to see that episode arc. I want to see that 5-episode arc of Bleakhearted Manor in Sea of Thieves, like her wanting to get married, him wanting to get married, something happens, like the possibilities are endless. But what a really interesting little story to come out of this set, something that I don't typically see, especially given that the last couple sets that we have really haven't really done it for me, or really shown any kind of unique lore tied to what's going on with Sea of Thieves. So I really wanted to talk about that. Also, by the way, don't forget the Skull Crusher emote is available now. That's the free one you can get. If you want to get the Skull Crusher emote, it's free. Just log in, go into the Emporium. Even if you don't ever plan on buying anything, I always recommend jumping in there just to get the free emotes or whatever, a free tankard, whatever they're doing. Because I really do think that's, it's fun just to get some free stuff in there. It's nice of them to be able to do that. They don't have to do that, but they do that. So getting into the rest of the patch notes, the rest of the patch notes are actually tied to game improvements. So I figured I wanted to talk about some of these because it's nice that we have been getting content. Now we're getting fixes, and fixes I think are the thing that everyone can really kind of get behind. So there's been a rebalance for ferry times across crew sizes. So following the reduction to the Ferry of the Damned wait time in previous updates, these times have undergone further adjustments to provide a more balanced experience across all crew sizes. So solo crews will now be held for 15 seconds, 2 pirate crews for 19 seconds, 3 pirate crews for 23 seconds, and 4 pirate crews are going to be for 25 seconds. And I just want to point out that originally I said that the solar crews were 15 seconds, and I was told I was wrong. So this is me saying, Rare is saying it's 15 seconds. 2 pirate crews, duo sloops, you're going to be 19 seconds. Brigs, you're going to be 23. Galleons are going to be 25, but it's based off of the crew, not the ship size. Just a reminder, crew size, not ship size. So galleons with 3 people should be 23 seconds. 2-player brigs should be 19 seconds. 4-player crews on 2 sloops, doesn't matter. You're still going to be 25 seconds if you're a galleon crew, but you're on 2 sloops. If you hijack 2 sloops, still going to be 25 seconds. The other thing that came with this was the replace gamer tags and replace ship names. So players can now choose to replace gamer tags or ship names independently. This allows creators who want to protect themselves and others they meet on the seas to see captain ship names if they choose. This is something that really does kind of narrow down to a few community members out there who are streamers who are a little more protective about getting stream sniped, which is fine. That's their prerogative. But it has it's been to the detriment of captaincy as a whole. Like they aren't really using captainships, or they're not using their captainships because they know that once people tie their name to their ship, then it's not a matter of them really having the upper hand of anonymity on the Sea of Thieves. As soon as people see their ship name, they'll know exactly who that is, which to me personally does kind of go against the nature of captaincy. At least for me, the nature of captaincy has always kind of been building a reputation for your ship. That's always the intended idea in my mind of like having a feared ship, knowing, who's going to be out there. I will never forget of Reaper's Bane. The Reaper's Bane will always be that duo sloop crew that really, really was hard to deal with. Meanwhile, the PvE Warlords crew, not so hard. And granted, that was kind of funny because the PvE Warlords were the ones came looking for a fight. So let's see. Covered that. So we're good on those. Are kind of the gameplay improvements, right? So let's get into fixed issues. Gameplay. Vanquishing emergent skeleton captains will now progress the Hunter of Cursed Captains commendation. If you've been having a hard time wondering how come that hasn't been going up, that should hopefully help out. Keep an eye out for me. If you do see me, feel free to let me know. I always love finding when people I love seeing when people happen to find me out in the game, and hopefully I give you guys a good skull. I hope I give a villainous though every time, or at least a hated skull. I always shoot for villainous whenever I get killed, but it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes I have bad days. Players who are away from their ship when migrating servers will now drop any held items before migrating. Something I didn't realize was an issue. And also, these were some good changes. I hope that these changes are actually working well, because passing through the tunnels of the damned, which is usually what people do when they're hopping servers or when they're portaling to different servers. I don't want to say server hopping, because server hopping can be completely different than portal hopping. I think portal hopping is just when you're throwing down the tall tale, you go through the portal, you lose anything that's on your boat, but you still maintain all the supplies. Server hopping to me means that you are jumping on a server fresh. You don't have any supplies. You haven't bought anything yet, and you're going into a server with a fresh boat. And then if it doesn't work out, then you leave that server, you jump on another server with a fresh boat. So maybe we could kind of start using a little bit of different lingo when we're talking about portaling versus server hopping. That might help kind of give people an idea, like, oh, that Reaper 5 came out of a portal, so they portaled, they didn't server hop. Even though technically they server hopped. I understand. I can already hear you guys telling me that I'm dumb about this, but that's okay. Cargo runs should now appear on emergent maps found in inside barrels, which is nice, because cargo runs are still one of those things I have to do. Now, as long as those count towards the Athena commendations, I'm fine with it. But I would like to make sure that still happens. Now we get into some of the details with the Legend of the Veil voyages. Players will once again encounter shipwreck graveyards during the Legend of Veil voyages. That's been turned back on. If you don't know, there was a bug that people were spawning a bunch of those. They would get the shipwreck graveyards. They would mark where they were located, and then they would cancel the voyage, and they would keep doing that until they got a whole bunch of loot that would float to the top after they'd canceled a bunch of them, and then they would go up, scoop up all the loot and not do the voyage and just get the gold from it. It was kind of a real kind of cheeky way to get around actually doing the Veil voyages. But that was turned off for a while because of that. So we didn't have shipwreck graveyards for a while, which is hurtful to the commendations, because you have to do shipwreck graveyards if you want to progress some of those milestones as well as commendations, if I recall. During a Legend of the Veil voyage, crews should now be consistently directed to the next quest after completing the initial quest from Bell. Something I appreciate. Thank you. Sometimes it was unclear what happened. Starting and canceling Legend of the Veil voyages, which is what I just spoke about, should now ensure that the treasure from shipwreck graveyards is removed from the world. So it's not going to cause any latency issues. As far as I understand it, the performance should be maintained, and it's not going to give people a cheeky way to get around actually going out and doing the voyage. Moving into Captains of Adventure. The first captain ship to join a server should now consistently retain previous saved ship decorations. We had previously known that had been an issue. Like if you didn't get on your ship, or if you got onto a server and your ship didn't have any of the ship decorations, you lost out on the gold for that. And that was it really turned people off from saving their actual ship cosmetics the way that you would hope would be the case, being that it is a captain ship. Finding out that it's actually the first captain ship on a server, very interesting caveat to why that was happening, but sure enough, that's what was going on. Also, saving a customization to a captain ship should now consistently ensure that the item is equipped the next session. I'm wondering if this is one of those situations where people could, where Rare could maybe knock down the cost of saving the cosmetics. To be able to save them. Granted, now that they're staying there, the invested cost or the cost investment is a little less so if you're not changing the look of your ship that often. But interesting kind of way to have a gold sink in my mind. This was always kind of an odd one for me. In the shipwright stock shop, voyages will now appear locked and unavailable for purchase if a ship does not have enough space to store the voyage. Good way to make sure that people aren't losing money because they're buying voyages that they can't buy. Also, after migrating servers, players should now consistently see all purchased captain's voyages on their captain's bookshelf. I like that. That just makes me happy. Continuing down the line, let's keep going. Captain's log customizations should no longer reset after migrating servers. I appreciate that. Crews will no longer be offered the option to restore a ship if the ship is already in pristine condition. Crews defeating specific skeletons, such as gold skeletons and plant skeletons, will now progress the expected milestones. Trinkets now have a small chance to be nudged if they are submerged in water, which basically means that your ship is taking on water, which is probably not a good thing anyway. Players who skip the captaincy tutorial 10 times will no longer be shown the tutorial in their next session. Really weird timing, really weird number for that. I'm going to let that one kind of ride if that's the case. Milestones related to tall tale completions will now progress as intended for larger crew sizes. Now you can go back out and start working on some of those tall tales. Within the captain's log, quests completed in the current voyage will now progress as intended for larger crew sizes. When purchasing a trinket tier, players no longer have to close and reopen the shipwright's shop to buy the next tier. Retrieved captain's logs will now advise players to take them to the Reaper's hideout to be cashed in. And realigning a trinket will now cause controller vibration. That's a good accessibility one right there. Scorched Forsaken Ashes and the Silent Barnacle tables, chairs, curtains, and chandeliers now use the correct colors and match the rest of the items in their set. And the text within the captain's log regarding pets has now been corrected. And that's it for the captaincy or captains of adventure stuff. There has been some good changes as far as some of the other things that are going on as far as like environment, visual and audio, and text and localization stuff. One thing that I wanted to call out, and this is kind of a fun one here. It was probably, I would say maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was hanging out on Insiders, just doing my hour, not really interacting with anything. And I was at Ancient Spire Outpost. And as I was just kind of sitting there waiting for my ship to lazy beard out, because generally I just lazy beard out 4 times and that gets me my hour. I was hanging out on Ancient Spire and I got really bored. And instead of like working on something else or being productive, I sat there and stared at the screen, because honestly, Sea of Thieves is just really beautiful to look at, especially over on Ancient Spire Outpost. And I was wandering around and I noticed that there are these little incense burners. And the little incense burners, if you don't know, are just those little dishes with a little candle on them. And I noticed that in the little caveway in the second spire on Ancient Spire Outpost, they were in the rock. And I thought, oh, man, you know, something shifted in the world. And these were moved. They didn't get shifted around with the rest of the things when they were moving whatever they were moving, because stuff always moves if you don't know. And as such, the incense burners were kind of stuck in the rock. So I thought, yeah, you know what? I'm on here. I'm in Insiders. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to put in a ticket. And sure enough, here it is, right here in the patch notes, as if it was calling out to my specific ticket. I'm pretty sure other people probably put this ticket in, but right here in the actual patch notes, it says the incense burners at Ancient Spire Outpost will no longer intersect with the rocks around them. And I had to think, you know, I had a hand in that. Even if I don't know it, even if I can't prove it, I had a hand in that. And I just wanted to kind of like toss it out there. If you guys are on Insiders and like me, you don't necessarily want to be spoiled. But you also want to make sure that things are looking good. Wander around wherever you're at. If you go on an island and you're just looking around, just kind of check out some of the stuff that's around. See if it's in place. See if it's, you know, in the right spot. You know, if you're not going to interact with the content, because obviously you want to get the Insider weekly stuff done so that you can get the time in. But you don't necessarily want to get spoiled with any of the content that's in there. Just take a look around you. See if there's anything out of place. Put a ticket in. Do your, you know, little QA stuff. Feel good about yourself. Because you never know. Might show up in the actual patch notes one day. And you might read it and think, oh, I did that. And you'll be able to put that little meme of Leonardo DiCaprio with the glass of whatever he's drinking pointing at the television screen while he's on his couch. I'm not going to do that. But you know that I would do that if I didn't already talk about it here. So that was one of the few things that was kind of moved around. They talked about some of the places that you were getting stuck, that you're no longer getting stuck. I found a really fantastic palm tree in the Devil's Roar that I got stuck in the other day, and it almost made me want to quit the game. I think I actually logged out, but I can't remember if I died or if I logged out. It was so long ago. But they've kind of worked on some of those things. If you find those, please report them. That way I don't have to get stuck in them in the future. I appreciate and thank you in advance. And really the main things that are still kind of going out are the reduced server performance when things are busy, but also ranged and melee hit detection, still an issue for the known issues in the patch notes. I will say that there was a survey that went out to Sea of Thieves players. If you got the email, you may have actually taken it. But there was a email that went out that basically asked about server performance in particular. And it was just a survey to kind of get a general scope for how people actually feel about the server performance. And as I was doing it, I read through every single question, and the questions were very particular about the most recent events, like the last couple of weeks, right? Not like the overall from the last 6 months, but just the more recent events that they wanted to get some feedback on. So I answered honestly, and I feel like that my answers were on par with what I've generally experienced, where sometimes I do have issues. I don't always have issues, but every once in a while I'll see an issue. And because of that, I feel like that the server performance is not quite where I would like to have it. So I wanted to, toss that out there and thank Rare for being diligent enough to think about creating a survey that would go out to everyone, not just content creators, not just, people who are in the community, but to everyone who signed up for emails that afforded the player base to really kind of give some honest feedback. Heated or not, feedback is feedback. And if it's heated, then they understand it's a hot topic, obviously. But it's nice to, God, I got to stop playing with stuff when I'm recording. But it's nice that they're doing this because they realize it's a concern. They want to make sure that they address it. And if it's something that's big enough that the survey kind of reflects that a large portion of the community are having issues with it, then they can kind of say like, okay, we were planning on doing this, this, and this. It's clear that the community feels like this is a bigger issue. And as such, we should probably put this higher up on the priority list than a couple of these other things, right? And I'm glad that they're doing this. I would welcome them to do this more in the future so that they can kind of keep that closer connection to what the general populace is actually saying about the game, as opposed to kind of the vocal minority on social media or in Twitch and stuff, really kind of give the broad scope of how people feel about the game and its current state. So thank you, Rare, for doing that. I really appreciate you reaching out and be willing to take that feedback from the community, regardless of what you heard, either from Twitter messages and replies or Facebook messages, all of that stuff. Like, it's nice to kind of feel like we're being heard, regardless of who we are. And that kind of wraps up pretty much everything as far as the patch notes go. This was a smaller patch. If you're on Steam, it was like less than 7 gigs. If you're Xbox Series X, it was less than 7 gigs. It was like 4.5 on Series S and stuff. Thankfully, Mina Fairy in the community didn't have to reinstall the entire thing. And shout out to her, by the way. If you guys don't know Mina Fairy, she's one of the moderators in the Discord server. Fantastic person. It was so good to actually get to meet her at SOT Fest. She recently, during EGX, got an opportunity to get her tattoo done. And her tattoo is of the Keelhauled logo. And we talked about this on the community episode, but I didn't get a really chance to kind of say this. I think it's probably one of the coolest things that I've ever had. I've never created anything like this podcast. I've never done anything like this before. And having this be the first chance to really kind of build something for people has been a fantastic experience. And one of the greatest gifts I could ever have is the people that come to it. But the fact that Mina was willing to actually get the tattoo of the podcast on her arm because of the friends that she's met through this community is one of the best. It was one of the best things I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never had anything like it. So thank you, Mina, for even thinking that this community is worth doing something like that. Because I think I'm next on the list. I think I'm going to go out and I'm going to get my community's logo tattooed on me because it has meant that much to me. I already have the Reaper's mark on here. I might as well go full bore, get the Keelhauled logo tattooed on me as well too, because I'm gonna live with this community for the rest of my life if I can, man. Because I really do love this Sea of Thieves community. I really love my community, and you guys make it worth it every single day. Every week I do this podcast, I think about how much you guys are out there loving the game, loving each other, and loving this stuff. So thank you to everyone. And I think that's going to do it. So Pirates, if you want to get a hold of me, there's plenty of ways to do that. You can head over to Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN. And I think I actually, now that I'm actually thinking about it, I think I actually got a review recently. I get these emails from Chartable, and Chartable always tells me if I've got like an update that's come in, right? So I think I actually got a review. Yeah, I did. Okay, so this one came from Captain Dog 666. And it was 5 stars. It says, mega awesome podcast. CaptainLogun has done a stunning job to explaining the lore, the latest news, and the other stuff happening in Sea of Thieves. Keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the Sea of Thieves. And with that, pirates, I think if you want to get a hold of me, there's plenty of ways to do that. On Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN, by the email, like Most Expendable did, CAPTLOGUN@gmail.com. That is the show email address. You can email me there. You can join the Discord. There's still the Sherpa program going on. If you need help with Sea of Thieves, if you want to get together with some other people to learn the literal ropes of sailing or combat, there's plenty of Sherpas that are willing to jump in and set up a time with you to kind of get going. And I think that's going to do it. So, pirates, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you in the Sea of Thieves.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.
Following is a public service announcement from the Starter Set Dungeons & Dragons podcast. This is your D&D campaign. This is the Starter Set podcast. You know how like poison frogs don't lick each other's backs?
So it's Howl's Moving Castle with a face.
Hey there, I'm Great Mandibles.
Because one of the party speaks Abyssal. You're all going to die.
And then adventure falls into your lap. Plop.
This is your D&D campaign after listening to the Starter Set podcast. So join Sam and Ed every Friday on the Starter Set podcast for prime Dungeons & Dragons content. Any questions?
Hey Guardians, we are the Destiny Show Podcast, a weekly podcast about all things Destiny 2. We invite amazing guests from the Destiny community to share their stories and discuss the latest topics from the world of Destiny. Check us out on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, or live on Twitch every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will see you Starside.